I'm Karima Brown. It's Sunday night and it's time for The Fix. Our big hitter this week, Minister for Economic Development, Ibrahim Patel.
The bill that we've now finalized represents an appropriate and effective balance.
Can tougher competition laws really level the playing field in an economy that is always skewed toward monopolies? From leadership contests in the ANC to coup plots, my expert panel tells you what we will all be discussing come Monday morning. And in the cool stuff, mixed blouse, a game changer. An artist that's redefining music genres. The Fix starts now. This is The Fix, where every Sunday night, without fear or favor, we question the big hitters. We will look ahead to tell you what matters, and beyond politics, we look at the cool stuff South Africans are talking about. We begin with this week's big hitter. Joining us this evening is, of course, our big hitter, Economic Development Minister Ibrahim Patel. Minister, good evening. Welcome to The Fix.
Good evening, Karima, to you and to all the viewers, and it's great to be here and also to know that this is the first program.
Yeah, this is the first program in our very new setting, so a big welcome and, of course, our gratitude that you are here. This week, you, of course, addressed a really important issue. You talked about measures to, of course, develop more inclusivity in the economy, and we are, of course, talking about, the competition legislation that is, going through its passage. It's done a lot of stuff, but it hasn't, in your own words, said or fulfilled what it needed to do, which was, of course, to provide all South Africans with an equal opportunity to participate fairly in the national economy. Are these new amendments going to be able to do that?
Karima, I think they will. This is the 20th anniversary of the passing of the Competition Act. In fact, it was one of the laws signed by President Mandela. And I think over the last 20 years we've seen, South Africans have seen significant action by the competition authorities, dealing with cartels, imposing public interest conditions on large mergers. And those are things that have been helpful in taking forward the vision of the Constitution and of our law. But frankly, when we looked after 20 years, do we have fully realized the vision of an inclusive economy? And the answer is it's a work in progress, and we need to do more, and we need to do it faster. So we've put a package of measures on the table. It's gone through Cabinet. It's gone through very extensive public consultation, and it's now Parliament that will be reflecting on this.
Now, Minister, before we go further and talk about the reaction to this, let's just quickly take a listen to, of course, the Competition Commissioner, Thembankosi Bonakele, speak about the reason why anti-competition measures are, of course, important.
There's a lot of cross-directorships in South Africa. Companies are being run literally by friends and families. And in an environment like that, it's very easy to collude. You're talking to people who
live in the same house.
I mean, we have cartels before they start. People will pray together.
Yeah.
So the social bonds of those who are incorporated in South Africa are very strong.
Now, Minister, you're obviously not going to argue there. This is precisely what you're trying to address. But some people are arguing that the powers that you are going to be affording these individuals are going to border on direct interference, protectionist measures that may well chase foreign investment away. How are you going to balance that very tightrope that you have to walk? We have to go and raise that $100 billion US dollars that President Ramaphosa is talking about. But you can also say no to a merger that involves a foreign company.
Karima, I think the package we've put together represents that balance. And let me give you an example of it. In January, when we sit with foreign investors in Davos and we say, South Africa is open for business, why don't you invest more here? One of the concerns that's repeatedly raised, they would say to us, your economy is sewn up. The large players dominated to the extent there's no space for fresh investment and for new players to come in. So what we've put on the table is a package of economic inclusion. It deals with the fact that our markets, some of our product markets, are more concentrated than is typically what you see in a dynamic growing economy. You know, the US Justice Department uses a measure called the HHI, it's the Effendal-Hirschman Index, and that measures the degree of concentration. We've applied that to South Africa, and a number of sectors are highly concentrated. When we open those sectors, there's an opportunity for fresh investment. But the other part is we have to encourage and facilitate more small businesses, medium-sized businesses, and black South Africans to come into the economy. Government can't make that a success, but we can open doors, and that's what the Competition Amendment Bill seeks to do.
Now, of course, that is not a new imperative. That's been the mantra of successive African National Congress governments. What in this legislation is going to be the thing that you can use to compel people to do that? What are going to be the compliance measures, but more importantly, what are the penalties when people don't follow the rules?
So let me start with the mechanisms we've put into the law that Parliament will consider. The first one is where a market is highly concentrated. The competition authorities, for the first time in the democracy, will actually have the power to do something about it. At the moment, their powers are confined to dealing with wrongdoing, but not to the structure of markets. And so we've given them powers, but we've also balanced those powers very carefully to ensure that they're proportional, that they fit in with the rule of law dispensation, and that there is the opportunity for firms to be heard and for the actions to be warranted. Now, economic concentration is one of those complex things because you can't simply try to prohibit it.
Yes.
Sometimes they're the outcome of other legitimate economic policies. When you want South African companies to be players in global markets, when you want prices to be low for local consumers, you may need economies of scale. You need these massive production runs where you do large numbers of a product, and that can result in concentration.
Absolutely. Minister, hold that thought. When we continue, of course, I'll be joined by the Sunday Times columnist, Peter Bruce, and he, of course, will be joining me in pressing for those answers.